global citizenry, I think, could probably be a provocative term, depending on who you're talking to. Some might embrace it and be, yeah, let's do this. Others might be, no, like we need to keep things here. And I think I find myself on both sides in different contexts.
Well, I think it's interesting because it's two-way. For example, when I left India, there were not many people there who were interested in yoga and stuff. But then when I came to Salt Lake City, I started learning yoga. And there are amazing teachers out here who have actually gone through a lot of rigorous training. It's not that they just learned over a couple of months. They've actually gone for like years, practiced for like 10 years and learned yoga. And then in the same way, I think like a lot of things are now easily accessible in India, like over the internet. For example, you get all kinds of information, whatever you want. And yeah, like I think to me, that's kind of what globalization means. I mean, it means like the exchange of ideas more than anything else, I think.
As far as globalization or being a global citizen, I think it's about, caring about other, cultures, other races besides yourself, other countries as well, and what's going on in them, and how it can affect you.
And to go along with that, it's understanding how other cultures see yours and where they're coming from and their points of view. Since we've been back home, we listen to and watch a lot more news from outside of the United States.
A lot of my classes have been talking about globalization, and a lot of people don't really know what it means. And I think it's the fact that this whole world is becoming so interconnected. And so I think being a global citizen means not only like understanding your culture, but being willing to like learn about and accept and respect other cultures from around the world. So it's not only, seeing yourself as an American, but seeing yourself as an American who wants to learn about the rest of the world and respect that, because I think that's how a lot of like racism or bigotry, that kind of stuff happens, is because people just don't understand what's going on outside of their comfort zone, if that makes sense.
50 years ago, 100 years ago, the whole world was so separated. We were going into world wars and all sorts of things, and hopefully my belief is that that's changed with our generation. Internet is a huge tool that has connected all of us together, and global commerce and stuff. So yeah, I view myself as a citizen of the world. I'm Brazilian. I was raised in the U.S. I have love for both countries. I've lived in Europe. I love Europe even more than both of the countries that I've lived in. So
I will connect it with my wife in China. We can use the phone or use the internet. They are very convenient. Yes. When I want to connect with them, I will speak to the phone and they will hear my voice. I think this is imaginable in the past time.
The local global context, if that makes sense. As I think about Utah, we have all these sovereign nations that were never framed as international when I was growing up. And the more that I travel, I realize, wow, it's because we don't treat it like international, but Indian tribes, because of treaties, are sovereign.
I feel like a lot of responsibility to your own people kind of needs to be forgotten. Like, that's important, but I think that it's recognizing that the whole world is your own people, and we're all so similar and all have so many different ways to help each other and learn from each other.
It's different for me, I do think, because I was born outside the country, and so I've always kind of been interested in traveling, and that's why I chose international studies as my major. So I've always, I don't know that I've considered myself a global citizen because I haven't been very many places, but at the same time, just having an interest in like learning about different cultures, and I guess in a way makes you a global citizen. You're interested in the global community, you recognize it, which is probably the most important thing, that you recognize that you're not just in this little bubble or whatever.
I always am afraid that I'm going to come off as this really, I'm very pretentious now, and I studied abroad, and I know better than you, and I'm so global and worldly. And I mean, I don't really feel like that, but I do feel like the experiences I had made me just more conscious of global issues, and it did make me change my major. I was an economics major before I went over there, but now I switched to international studies, so whatever, take that. how you will.
I wouldn't really consider myself a global citizen. I'd like to travel more. I think there's a lot more to learn. As for the connectedness, I think there's a lot more that we have to do in order to really feel connected to other people.
I don't know. I get a little frustrated when sometimes people make comments like, well, if you haven't traveled, you blah, 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 these judgmental things about people who haven't traveled, when the reality is that buying an airplane ticket is really, really expensive, and I'm still paying off my stupid ticket to Zanzibar. But I think it is possible to be a global citizen in, whatever way that you can by being aware and reading and being well studied. And if you want to support a charity, make sure you're supporting a charity that is helping, not harming.
I guess a global citizen to me would be someone who has the big picture in mind and who tries to see things in multiple contexts. Anytime, I guess, you're considering options that you have, maybe consider additionally like options that maybe someone else doesn't have, or also trying to bridge the gap at any time that you can, maybe if it's, in a one-on-one situation or if it's through relief efforts or anything like that.
One of the things that I always think about is who's able to travel, and even though I may not, in a sense, come from a privileged background, like I had a lot of privilege in being able to do this. And so I think about that all the time when I go. It's like, who isn't here, who isn't able to come here? And I always think about the communities that I go visit as well. Like, it's not like they're coming to visit us.
And I know it might not be financially possible for everybody to do it, but we saved up for 2 years before we did it, and it's worth it. It is totally worth it.
And there's so many opportunities, though, to get scholarships for the program that I don't think a lot of students are aware of. They give out like over $200,000 in scholarships every year for the program. And that's like 1 in 3 students that receive one. So that's an awesome number. And I just tell kids all the time, take advantage of what's available to you, because there's other students in other parts of the world that don't have the opportunity to have what we have.
The program was amazing. I mean, they offer so many scholarships, and I have a lot of friends who think, I can't do it. Like, I'd love to, but I can't afford it, or all of these things. And I honestly was amazed by the amount of scholarships they try to offer.
Don't be afraid to take chances. I mean, as scared as you might be in that first initial leap to going somewhere new or to experiencing something else or even to a new experience here in the States, don't be afraid to say yes to things, because every day you're going to meet people that will affect your lives.
My father always told me to, coming to America, that there were good things and bad things here, and there's good things and bad things about Brazil. And we, living in both countries, we could take the good things out of both and mold ourselves,
I was more sure about career and life goals maybe a few years ago. And the more I've been in school, I become less and less sure in some ways. I feel like, not in a formal sense, but just in a holistic sense, I feel like education is something that I want to be engaged with in one way or the other, whether I'm getting paid to do it or not.
My career goal actually was shaped by going to study abroad, because over there I met this old man. He was on the streets, and he was just begging for money. Unlike here, usually people ask for a couple of dollars. Over there they asked for a cent, because the currency was different, and it was 5 kwai, and it was just absolutely insane to me. It seems like they're asking me for a penny, and so I felt so ashamed that at first I didn't give it to him, but then next time I came across him again, so then I gave him 100 kwai, which just converts to maybe $10.
From the U, I'm probably going to apply to law school, but I knew that before I went over there. But I did meet some, the people I met who were studying law. That just kind of re-solidified my decision, because we could have conversations about things, and we just got really into it, talking about different countries' laws and comparative politics and stuff. And then we would end and feel lame that we had just spent 2 hours talking about German politics.
Spain was sort of a soul-searching experience for me, because I needed to find out who I was. And I mean, that did happen because I feel much more of the proper version of myself now. I feel more like, I don't know. It's very, very ridiculous and cliche sounding, but it's true. I mean, you discover things about yourself that you would have never been able to understand in a situation where you're comfortable. And being outside of the comfort zone is just the most breathtaking experience, to not understand what's going on fully, but to just kind of have to go with it.
Tour really changed my major and what I wanted to do with my education. I am a social work major because once I got there, I figured out that things that everybody thinks is really easy, like going to the store or getting on a bus or classes, are so much more difficult. Even though I'd been working so hard to learn the language, it was just a huge culture gap. And the few people that stepped up and took the time to slow down and explain it to me, or tried not to get frustrated with me, made such an impact. And I came back to here and noticed that with other people that aren't from Utah, and how frustrating it can be. And so many people in our culture miss that that's such a challenge and how hard people work. So I want to do social work and apply that same thing to be able to take the time and understand other people and help them figure it out.
Because there's so many people that are unaware, that don't know how to accept global relationships. And I want to help people understand that, accept that, kind of live with it.
I actually, before the summer, I wanted to just go straight into law school and start like next fall. I'm supposed to graduate this spring, and so I wanted to just go straight into law school. But you know, I kind of say that it was a little bit of a blessing that I got in that accident, because it made me like realize that, hey, you need to slow down and figure out your life a little bit more. So I actually applied to do Teach for America, which I haven't found out if I've got it yet. So fingers crossed. But so I want to do that for another 2 years. And the reason why I desire doing something like that is because, you know, even in the U.S., you can taste so many different cultures in one setting. And so with Teach for America, where you're going to like maybe more impoverished areas, you're going to get a lot of diversity, and which I find so exciting. And after that, I do want to continue and go to law school and maybe do something internationally, whether it be like doing Amnesty International or like something related to humanities, if that makes sense, like international relations, and kind of being an advocate for less represented people. So that's my goal.
I just feel like, our time on Earth is kind of short. So yeah, there's nothing much we can do besides leave something good behind. So yeah, in whatever way we can. So that's pretty much it.